Well, this is not the video I thought I'd be making today, because there was win trading at the TFT Tactician's Crown. Now, to properly understand the whole situation, we need to zoom out a little bit. Obviously, an action was made, but there's context to this action. Going into the last game, these are the standings. Dasic secured, Isolucas, Jegisor, Dissoap, Bio, and Lakoko very, very nearly confirmed. The cutoff ended up being at 65 points, so all these players just need to not go 8th. Seopimi, also in a great spot, and Precedent is right on the bubble. So if we look at this next page, we'll see that Precedent's at 60, Taro's at 59, Lilo at 59, Tardament at 58, Ironbog at 57, and Kang Soon Jong at 57 as well. So very, very close for all of these players right here in the mix. And it all changes when this happens.
And Jegisor goes down to almost dead.
Yeah, but not just Jegisor goes to dead. Look here. Lakoko goes out in 8th place. And what that does is it sends this whole thing into a spiral, because that means Lakoko only has 65 points, meaning that now 3 spots are really up for grabs. And so, heading into our top 4. Obviously, Precedent's not in this lobby, so he cannot do anything to direct his own fate at this point. But who is here? Well, Shituren from CN is already out of our tournament. We see that right here. He's at 53 points. There's nothing he can do. We have Experion, who ends up hitting 2 3-star 5 cost, which is awesome, and that should not be taken away from him. He, at 54 points, is also out. Seopimi, with this top 4, is in. Who is on the bubble at this point? No other than another Chinese representative and former Tactician's Crown winner, Lilu. And watch what happens.
Positioning, by the way. There is no world where you have to full left your Vi here. He's taken items off. He removed Violet! He moved items from Violet 3 to... He's Wintrading! What's just happened here? He just removed his items! He's no scout, no pivot. That Violet's been in since 2-1. He just did Lilo the biggest solid I've ever seen. This is unbelievable scene.
Let me break this down for you. We see his augment choices are, and there's 2 that are very important here. No scout, no pivot, and long distance pals. One big thing I saw people saying is, oh, he's only playing 5 out of 6 pit fighter. That's win trading. Well, that's not a part of this because he's locked in. This Victor cannot leave this board. He needs to go level 10 in order for that to happen. And that's not going to be, it's not going to happen on this board. So that is the first portion. He's 5 out of 6 pit fighter. That is the situation of his board. But because he's no scout, no pivot, the units that have been around for the longest have the most of these stacks. So Violet 3, which we all know is better than this Vi 2, has been stacking all game with all of this AD, all of this health, all of these different scaling mechanics that come with long distance pals. And with the no scout, no pivot. And 2 things happen here. He removes items from both of these units. So you'll see, first, he removes items from the Violet, and then he will remove the Redemption from the Vi. He swaps these positions, puts the Vi over here on this left side, so it gets long distance pals, which makes a little bit of sense. A little bit, if you're switching your items over. And then he puts an item back onto the Vander, which I imagine he is a reforged of this Redemption. And now, you see for this positioning for this fight. Let me load all the way in. Okay, beginning of this fight. He's got long distance pals between these 2. But also, you've noticed his positioning is a little bit suspicious, because it's not just about the items. Solo frontline over here, far left of your carries, with this over here. Leaving, once this Vander falls, so does his whole backline, leaving the Draven open to take damage as well. Basically sacking positioning also. You'll see him place 2 items onto Vi. Great. But doesn't put a 3rd item on. No healing. Now puts the healing on. Because if you've played 4v4, you know that if you're not facing your teammate, slam the items. Slam the items, your unit will be stronger. He might even take the round win still. But because he's putting it on a weaker unit, he then falls out in 4th place, maybe, which was his plan. And because of that, he takes a pretty bad loss. And as a result, he falls out of the tournament and also does Lilu, but not as bad. So Lilu gets +1 placement. Now here's where the problem comes in here. If we look at the final scoreboard, we'll see that there's a huge tie at 65 between Ironbog, Lilu at 65, Prestivan at 65, and Lakoko at 65. Lakoko being the lowest in those tiebreakers. Now, here's the problem. Lilu got +1 placement because of the actions by the other Chinese member, Shituren here. Because of that, Prestivan then loses his spot in the top 8. Lakoko will always fall out because of tiebreakers. Ironbog will always get in because of tiebreakers, but Prestivan loses this spot because of the win trading action. So what's been the result of that? Well, Twitter's really mad. Like, really mad. We have casters putting it on the internet. We have players recounting old things like this. We have huge personalities coming out. Many of our players, including some of these final lobby players, coming out and saying this as well. Disso coming out and says, I purposely didn't win trade Prestivan for the spirit of competition when I very well could on the final day because it shouldn't be allowed. Hope admins take action. KC Double responding to Prestivan's tweet of him putting out this clip saying, really disgusting to see things like this, and it's not the first time we see these win trades, and I hope they take appropriate measures. We have the other commentators that are on the world's broadcast, Clement and David and Relic, even putting some things that we're about to talk about. Also, Damascene Raptor, a well-known EU player, bringing up the rulebook, which says this: collusion. Collusion is prohibited. Collusion is defined as any agreement among 2 or more players to disadvantage opposing players. Collusion includes, but is not limited to, acts such as, and if we look at the bottom, deliberately losing a game for compensation or for any other reason or attempting to induce another player to do so. Now, I am not accusing Lilu of doing anything here. He may have nothing to do with this. He may have something to do with it, but I'm not saying he is. We have no proof of any of that. What I am saying is Shituren did give Lilu a spot. He deliberately lost a game, and that boosted compensation for Lilu and gave him a spot to compete for the Tactician's crown that now Prestivan does not. And sadly, this isn't the first time this has happened. Tardaman, who was at this World Championship, saw this before at the Tactician's crown, talking about cash prize. And I'm not going to bore you guys by reading this whole thing, but we see that there's some differences between the regional competition in China, the prizing at the World Championship, and looking at some of our other Chinese players that are playing in this tournament as well. He goes through this whole thing, really laying it out for all of us to understand what this looks like. And the results of this action of what was pretty easily, and this is a little bit less of an obvious win trade, the competitive ruling was as follows. He breached the global code of conduct. He's found in breach of underperformance, where esports professionals are expected to perform their respective duties and complete to the best of their ability in all Riot Games esports competitions. Consequently, I will be given an official warning and administered a penalty of 30% forfeiture of the prizing earned from the Tactician's crown, which isn't that much of a punishment. Includes failing to give best efforts. This is match fixing or manipulation. This is very clearly what is happening here in our situation. And Wigwug pulling this out, looking at the old tweet as well, seeing what happened, that Riot did not acknowledge that the player match fixed. And so today, we are hoping for a better result for Prestivan. Thankfully, Riot is investigating the situation, and we have to wait for their conclusion. We don't know yet. We have to wait for their conclusion. I'll keep you guys updated. I will let you know when this happens, but this is the full context of the situation.